Good morning, everybody. Good morning to join us in this very interesting event. Europe and food, ensuring environmentally health and social benefit for the global transition. This is one of the main issues of the European institution is focusing. After the presentation of the Green Deal, the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, clarify the two important strategies, farm to fork and biodiversity, as the future of our Europe in facing the big challenges of environmentally, climate change, food waste, and the other very important issue. Today, thanks to Barilla Foundation, we have the opportunity first to have a presentation or a report by the Barilla Foundation and by the Marta Antonelli, which will present the study and take the importance of the Food Sustainability Index, which will be an important tool to try to make an evaluation, quantitative and qualitative benchmarking model, including 37 indicators and 89 individual metrics, which measure the sustainability of a food system in 67 countries worldwide. So that will be very important to us, because what we would like to go in this discussion, and I would like to thank all the panelists and the experts that are with us today, to understand how we can get the great goals that the Green Deal strategy put on the hand of the legislator, in the hand of the stakeholders. So, first of all, let me thank all of you, and let's start with this incredible, important event. And thank you again by Barilla Foundation. Let's start with an introduction by Ambassador Michele Quaroni. Michele Quaroni is the Ambassador Deputy Permanent Representative of Italy to the European Union, and I will ask him the farm to fork strategy and the needs of sustainable diets, the Italian case. Thanks a lot, Ambassador Quaroni. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable De Castro, and thank you to the Barilla Foundation for today's event and for having me invited to participate in this first session. I unfortunately have to apologize that I will have to leave after my speech, because we have a meeting of the Committee of Permanent Representatives in order to prepare this weekend's meeting of our leaders in Portugal. But I would like to take this opportunity to present the point of view, the Italian point of view, on the opportunities offered by the farm to fork strategy, which has been presented by the Commission exactly 1 year ago, to achieve the goal of transition to a more sustainable model of agri-food production and diet. And since we're talking about sustainability in agriculture, just let me briefly emphasize also that in the framework of the Italian presidency of the G20 this year, we are specifically in the agriculture sector promoting the issue of sustainability and resilience in the agri-food systems. But now back on to the farm to fork strategy, and let me first focus on the farm part of the strategy, meaning the agriculture sector, which is called upon to make a very decisive contribution to the green transition process. The strategy is, at least as we see it, an occasion to also to relaunch the agriculture sector if the ecological transition is taken as an opportunity to combine sustainability and competitiveness. Italy is ready to play its part since it is a leading country in organic farming, production, quality schemes, production, and circular economy as well. Talking more specifically on the targets foreseen by the strategy, from the Italian point of view, the objective of reaching 25% of the European agriculture area cultivated with organic farming methods is very welcome. At the national level, we have already reached 17%, and Italy is ahead in the European panorama, also thanks to the significant measures implemented with the Rural Development Program. In any case, other equally sustainable integrated production methods could also play a very important role. As regards the plant protection products, it must be recalled that since 2003 to today, their use has decreased by around 50%, and the number of active substances that can be used at the EU level has decreased by approximately 60%. But also the level of ambition for further reductions will also have to consider the existence of viable alternatives for phytosanitary defense, also taking into account the climatical, geographical, and environmental diversity of the member states. Therefore, it seems appropriate to focus on measures to promote a greater availability on the market of low-risk plant protection products. Equally important is precision farming to produce the quantities of products used in favor of maximizing the effectiveness. Finally, a mention of the use of antimicrobials in animal productions. Italy is certainly has a very advanced tool to monitor the very prescriptive appropriateness, which is the electronic veterinary prescription. This tool represents the base of a system called the Classifarm, intended to measure the safety and quality of livestock farms by combining the assessment of sanitary and zootechnical parameters. Built on the One Health approach, it supports the goal of reducing the use of veterinary drugs and antimicrobials, in particular in improving animal welfare. In other words, it pursues the objective of sustainability of livestock farming. Now, getting to the fork part of the strategy, and let me talk specifically here about sustainable diets. I think it is of paramount importance to invest, first of all, in citizens' education, to provide them with the knowledge and skills so that they can make informed and conscious choices regarding their nutrition. Education should be directed to retrieve also the traditional dietary models, and which are invaluable assets in terms of health and sustainability goals. And since I'm Italian, of course, I will refer in particular to the Mediterranean diet, which is a model that does not exclude any food category, under the assumption that all foods, if consumed according to the right frequency and portion, can play a positive role in healthy and sustainable diets. The value of the Mediterranean diet does not end with the balanced combination of foods. There is an even more important underlying cultural dimension in it. I quote on this the decision of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Committee on the inscription in the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. It says, quote, "The Mediterranean diet involves a set of skills, knowledge, rituals, symbols, and traditions concerning crops, harvesting, fishing, animal husbandry, conservation, processing, cooking, and particularly the sharing and consumption of food. Eating together is the foundation of the cultural identity and continuity of communities throughout the Mediterranean basin. It is a moment of social exchange and communication, an affirmation of renewal of family, group, or community identity," end of quote. For this reason, Italy has been strongly rejecting simplistic solutions related to food, and on the contrary, we sustain the provision of transparent and comprehensive information in food labeling to citizens in order to enable the citizens to make informed and healthy choices. Again, on food labeling, this applies both to the indication of origin of food and their ingredients, and we expect an ambitious legislative proposal by the end of 2022 in this regard, and also to the front of package nutritional labeling. As you know, Italy supports a front of package scheme based on factual information, as I said before, regarding the content of energy and single nutrition of a portion of food. On the contrary, some front of packer nutritional labeling schemes already on the market at the national level discriminate against single ingredient and traditional European top quality food in favor of ultra processed products that can be reformulated indefinitely. Our country is very rich in traditional products protected by geographical indications, which cannot, by their nature, be reformulated, and as I said, are part of our cultural heritage. In conclusion, we must therefore safeguard and promote this immense heritage, which proved to be perfectly fit within healthy dietary models. And I'm sure that the Commission will be very sensitive to this request. I end here my intervention. I thank again Barilla Foundation for inviting me and allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Quaroni. Thank you very much for your interesting introduction. And I very much thanks you because you opened the big question that we are going to sorry for the video, to open the discussion about the important goals that Farm to Fork and biodiversity strategy give to us. Of course, everybody wants to reduce chemistry in agriculture. Everybody wants to reduce the pesticide. The question is how? And that would be very interesting now to open the debate, asking to Marta Antonelli. Marta Antonelli is the head of research of Barilla Foundation, and she will introduce us the speech in the Food Sustainability Index and the importance of measuring the sustainability of food system. So, Marta Antonelli, thank you very much for that. Please, now the floor is yours, and give us the information of the Barilla Foundation study. Marta.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction, Mr. De Castro. I am very glad today to present a new study that explores the European food systems with a multidisciplinary approach. The study has been realized by the Barilla Foundation with the contribution of prominent experts and scholars at the international level. So I will start by saying that the European food system is at stake today because we recognize the extraordinary contribution that food systems must make to the European Green Deal as recognized by the Farm to Fork, but also to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and so on and so forth. So there is an inextricable link between the health of people, the health of societies, the health of the planet. And so this report seeks to take a multidisciplinary approach to understand food systems in accordance to the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. And to do that, it analyzes three pillars of food systems: agriculture, nutritional challenges, food loss, and food waste. So the aim here is to inform reflections, but also bold actions at different levels and for different stakeholders. So the analysis is based on the Food Sustainability Index, which is a program developed since 2016 in collaboration with the Economist Intelligence Unit. The program currently covers 67 countries and the index is based on 37 indicators and about 90 individual qualitative and quantitative metrics that cover environmental, social, and economic factors. So the index takes both outcome indicators and also process indicators, which mainly refer to national processes or strategies or initiatives. And as I said, the FSI looks at three main areas of concern: nutritional challenges, food loss, and food waste. And this is how the study I'm presenting today is organized. Just a mention here of the tremendous impact that COVID-19 has had on food systems. So the pandemic has made it clear that there are many interrelations between health, between ecosystems, between supply chains, and also consumption patterns. And what has also made it clear is that a pandemic like this has exacerbated the distortions and the negative externalities of global food systems, so increasing poverty, leading more people to food insecurity, and as recognized by the Farm to Fork strategy, a shift towards more sustainable and healthier food systems can bring a number of benefits across the environmental, health, and social domains, and so offering economic gains that are also fundamental to recover from the pandemic. So a holistic approach is needed to accelerate the transformation of food systems and agricultural systems. And this is also fundamental to catalyze progress in all SDGs, not only those that are directly related to food systems. So I will briefly go the main findings of the report, starting from the chapter of nutritional challenges. So first of all, the European Union is the continent which is most severely affected by non-communicable diseases that represent the leading cause of disability and death. And we know that food choices are the most important factors that undermine health and well-being in these countries and account for about 50% of cardiovascular diseases in the continent. And this is related to the transition, to the nutrition transition that European countries are experiencing, with excessive consumption of energy, of saturated fats, of trans fats, of sugar, of salts, and also low consumption of fruit and vegetables, of whole grains. And these are all leading factors and major cause of concern when it comes to health. So today, overweight and obesity are a serious challenge in all European countries. If we look the average, we see that about 6 adults out of 10 are overweight and obese, and this is also increasing in the youngest generations. So also it's worthwhile to say that life expectancy at birth has risen an average of 69 years in 1960 to about 80 in 2016. But if we look at healthy life expectancy, we can see that it is about 10 years shorter on average than overall life expectancy. And this is related, has been related again to the nutrition transition towards a Western diet that has been observed. The abandonment of the Mediterranean diet has been already pointed out, and is, of course, what we see in Southern Europe, for example. Moreover, we argue in the report that the potential of unleashing healthy and sustainable diets still needs to be fully unlocked. For example, in all EU countries, we have healthy eating guidelines that are published at the national level, although they are updated at different speed, at different rate. Sustainability issues, though, are integrated only in a few countries, just to mention a few: Germany and Sweden. And we argue that this could inform better procurement or better behavior. It would give really indications to inform a more sustainable and healthier food consumption. Also, education is compulsory in the national curriculum of primary and secondary school in only 19 countries in Europe, and we think there is great potential also to this intervention as part of a wider strategy. So the second chapter I want to briefly introduce is sustainable agriculture, a prominent topic since the inception of the European Union. So the EU can be considered as a front runner in the promotion of sustainable agriculture at the global level, but there are a few issues that I would like to highlight here. So first of all, agriculture is among the main pressures on EU water resources in both quantitative and qualitative terms. Water scarcity is on the rise in Western and Northern Europe as well, not only in Southern Europe, especially due to climate change. Agricultural water withdrawals account for about 44% of total withdrawals on average. But in southern countries, this is getting closer to 2/3 of total abstraction, therefore increasing competition also with other uses, with other sectors. So the study also shows that the largest share of EU countries' environmental footprints occur abroad. And this is, for example, the case of the majority of EU countries, which are net importers of water embedded in agricultural trade, with the few net exporters of virtual water suffering from water scarcity, so notably Spain and Italy, for instance. I would also briefly mention the degradation of agricultural soil that remains a crucial issue in Europe, especially in southern countries, where basically the soil carbon content is below the critical threshold, or 1.5%. Member states are promoters of organic agriculture at the global level, and we have the highest proportion of agricultural area given to organic agriculture, about 8% of total agricultural area, and this is very much increasing. Last but not least, I would like to point out to the issue of the aging of farmers in Europe and the low participation of youth. So only 5% of youth under 35 years are engaged in agriculture. The average age of the EU farmer is 53 years old, and this is an issue that deserves attention. The magnitude also of food loss and waste is an issue that we want to emphasize here also, as it has numerous economic, environmental, and social dimensions and externalities that we should consider. So at the global level, about 1/3 of food produced is lost or wasted along the supply chain. In Europe, this accounts for about 20% of total food produced, with an economic value of 143 billion euros, according to the Fusions project. So each citizen in the EU on average wastes 60 kilos of food per year, and food losses account for about 3% of total food production. So there are a number of initiatives that are taking place to tackling this phenomenon, this problem, and these include policy responses at the regional, at the national, but also at the city level, which deserves attention. And it's important to say that these policies are tied with a number of other policies, such as the recovery of nutrients and secondary raw materials, or food safety, biodiversity, feed production. So it's really important to take a systemic approach when facing an issue like food loss and waste. In recent years, 3 important steps have been taken in the EU, from the publication of guidelines on food donations to the development of a methodology starting for measuring food loss and food waste. But there are still many challenges that remain if we want to halve per capita food waste at retailer and consumer levels by 2030. So just to conclude, I would like to highlight a few recommendations. This is, of course, a non-exhaustive list of recommendations based on the analysis of this report, and I'm sure that many more will emerge from the discussion and the panel that will follow my intervention. So first of all, it is fundamental to take a One Health approach that harnesses societal change resulting from the COVID-19 pandemics to tackle the root cases of broken food systems. And this builds on agri-food systems that deliver safe, healthy, sustainable food for all, and that are also able to respond quickly and to recover from sudden shocks and disruptive stressors. Secondly, we highlight the need to adopt an integrated policy strategies that reconnect food, nutrition, and agriculture, and that fundamentally is fundamentally based on the principles of a good food system governance aligned with the broader framework of the SDGs. Third, we would like to emphasize that the nutrition transition can be addressed through a comprehensive approach and also multi-stakeholder partnerships. Fourth, it's fundamental to create enabling food environment that help us mainstream healthy and sustainable food choices in all contexts. And this can happen only through systemic changes in food, social, and informative environments, so that these choices are really easy, are really the default ones for all consumers in Europe. Last but not least, I would like to mention the issue of food education. So we think that education is a fundamental element of a wider, comprehensive approach to more sustainable and healthier food system in Europe, although it will not be sufficient alone, and therefore policy options should also include initiatives that promote, that favor the production, availability, but also the affordability that contribute to healthy and sustainable diets for all. And having said that, I thank you for your attention and encourage you to download the report, Europe and Food, available today on the website of the Barilla Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you very much, because that would be very important remarks. The study of Barilla Foundation clarify the big challenges that we have to face. Of course, you mentioned the problem of the scarcity of natural resources, water, soil. That scarcity means that the pressure on the natural resources are going to increase. So the question is how to protect these resources. Don't waste these resources. How we can do that. And important, of course, in these regards, has to have a global system governance, as you said. That would be important that everybody, all the states in the world understand that this is one of the main challenges we have. From one hand, we have a pressure because of food security. People ask more food, On the other hand, we have a scarcity of natural resources. So how we can, give the answer to the big question, how to produce with less pollution, with less chemistry, with less impact environmentally. But at the same time, you mentioned the problem of obesity and overweight, which is another incredible big problems. And we need more and more education to explain to our consumer how they has to approach to the food. Information, education, starting from the school, is one of the big challenges, and Europe is doing something on that. Probably has to do much more. Of course, food waste and food loss is the other big issue. And we have to remember that the food waste is all over the world. By the rich country, we waste food in the distribution system. But in the poor country, we have a lot of food waste in all the chain, and in particular in the agricultural, transportation and cold chain that doesn't work. So big challenges, very big, important goals to reach. So thank you very much, Dottoressa Antonelli. Thank you very much, Marta. So now it's a pleasure for me to open the panel discussion and introducing a very important speakers that will give the presentation. So first, I ask all of you to introduce themselves, to introduce yourself, and of course, try to react to the very important result of the Barilla Foundation research that Marta Antonelli said. We will start with Clary Bury. Clary Bury is a Deputy Director General for Food Sustainable in the European Union Commission. So it's a very pleasure to give the floor to you and asking how the Farm to Fork strategy and the other initiative can address the big challenges that we have now clarified in the table. Thank you very much, Claire, to be with us. Please, the floor is yours.
Buongiorno, Onorevole De Castro. Buongiorno. Buongiorno a tutti. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. I'd like, first of all, I think, to congratulate the organisers on this very, very interesting report, which gives us lots of food for thought, if I can say that. Along all the food chain, as you mentioned, Paolo, from agriculture to nutrition, to food loss and to food waste, and also I think some very interesting recommendations to inspire policies and initiatives. I've been asked to focus on what Michele in his intervention called the fork, to talk about the nutritional challenges, which I will very happily do, but I'm also happy, of course, in the questions and the debate to talk about wider issues, because Farm to Fork covers the whole extent of the food chain. I noticed, Marta, that in the report you say that we're really at what you describe as being a tipping point now in terms of the nutritional challenges. So I think it's really the moment to focus on those and to see what we can do to make that difference, to tip things in the right direction. I want just to say a few words about how we see the challenges, what Farm to Fork tries to do, and then Paolo, I think you very rightly said we have to focus on how we overcome these problems. So the Commission has put forward some ideas on that, but of course is very open to listen, to hear, and to follow what other recommendations are out there. So as was highlighted in the report today, overweight and obesity rates are rising, unfortunately, in most member states. It's estimated that in the EU in 2017, over 950,000 deaths, which is 1 in 5, were attributable to unhealthy diets, mainly due to cardiovascular diseases and cancers. And the cost of adult obesity in the EU was estimated at €70 billion per year in 2016. That means that about 7% of national budgets across the EU are spent on non-communicable diseases associated with obesity every year, which is a huge amount of those budgets. But on the other hand, we know that 33 million people in the EU cannot afford a quality meal every second day. So the Farm to Fork aims to respond to some of these challenges. And how do we do that? First of all, by trying to make sure that Europeans have access to healthy, affordable and sustainable food. This is one of the key objectives of the Farm to Fork strategy. Current food consumption patterns are not sustainable from a health and environmental point of view. Average intakes of energy, red meat, sugars, salts and fats continue to exceed recommendations, while consumption of whole grain, cereals, fruit and vegetables, legumes and fruits are not at the levels that they should be. Those types of diets are obviously also promoted by the Mediterranean diets. I think that Michele drew attention to that, also the Nordic diet, but their consumption overall remains insufficient. A healthy diet not only reduces the risk of life-threatening diseases, but also can have a positive impact on our food system. So the transition to sustainable food systems won't happen unless we manage to make the change in terms of shift in people's diets. As also highlighted in the report, unhealthy diets are not just an individual issue. There are other factors, there are broader societal aspects that we have to look at, such as the food offer, food prices, food information, food marketing, or rather, let's call it the food environment, which impact on consumers' dietary choices. We're taking several actions at the level of the Commission to try and improve the environment so that the healthy choice becomes the easy choice, that it's the natural choice for people to make. I want to mention three things in particular. First of all, the work we're doing on the Code of Conduct, and secondly, the work on food information, and then thirdly, food education, which both Paolo and Marta have already mentioned. Firstly, on the Code of Conduct, the Commission is now working very intensely this month and next month on developing an EU Code of Conduct for responsible business and marketing practices in cooperation with stakeholders. The aim of the Code of Conduct is to encourage business food actors voluntarily, but also in a very tangible way, to increase the availability and affordability of healthy and sustainable food options and to improve their sustainability performance. So in the framework of the code, the Commission is looking for commitments from companies to take concrete actions, very specific actions on health and sustainability. Commitments could include the promotion of healthy diets and, for example, through encouraging increased consumption of fruits and vegetables and whole grain cereals, or to improve the nutritional quality of foods and meals through reformulation where possible. As I mentioned, work is ongoing at the moment. We have another meeting this week. We have several meetings during the course of this month and next month. And the aim is to have the code ready for signature and endorsement by the interested parties by June 2021, because we hope this will be a contribution from Europe to the UN Sustainable Food Systems Summit, which will take place in September. Secondly, nutrient profiles. Another important initiative of the strategies is to set nutrient profiles. We hope that by setting nutrient profiles, this will prevent positive messages on foods with a non-healthy profile. So therefore, when consumers can make a more educated choice, because the actual content of the food will be presented to them in a way which is clear and which is clearly understandable in terms of what the benefits of the food is. We hope that this will also stimulate manufacturers to reformulate some of their foods to present a more healthy and nutritional offer to consumers. Now, front of pack labeling, Michele has already mentioned that we're working on the front of pack labeling, and that there will be a proposal by the end of 2022. And I think this is increasingly seen as a tool which can help prevent diet-related non-communicable diseases. Several voluntary schemes already exist. We know that there are different views amongst stakeholders out there and between the member states, but most of the stakeholders, in fact, I would say nearly all of the stakeholders, recognize that there needs to be some harmonization in the interests of our single market here in Europe. So we've proposed that we should have a harmonized mandatory system. This is also one of the actions that we mentioned under the Beating Cancer Action Plan for improving healthy promotion through access to healthy diets. I've said before, and I will say again very clearly, that no choice has been made at this stage. We will only make a choice once we have a very thorough impact assessment, once we have completed consultation, and once we've also taken scientific advice. We've asked the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, to provide advice on food groups that have important roles in the diets of the EU population. For this, experts will assess scientific information on dietary recommendations for healthy diets, and will also look into national dietary guidelines. So the idea is to review all the science that is out there. The different policy options have been consulted on already in our Inception impact assessment, and the response that we got there was very positive in the sense that there was agreement that we have properly identified the different options. I want to highlight that we're fully aware of the specificities of some agricultural traditional foods and differences in national dietary habits. Michela, of course, set out the Italian case, and these elements will all be taken into account during the process. During 2021, we will be consulting further, and I would encourage all of you who are here today who have an interest, please to participate in that consultation that we will now be doing. We intend to make a balanced proposal based on a thorough understanding of the different aspects and potential impacts of any harmonized scheme. We really believe that we can find a common way forward at European level, taking into account the objective considerations and building on the farm to fork strategy, because this is crucial, I think, if we are going to push things in the right direction as far as the nutritional needle on the tipping point is concerned. Last, but by no means least, as also mentioned, I think, by Marta at the end of her presentation and underlined now by Paolo, awareness, communication, and education are crucial. The front of pack nutrition is a helpful tool, but it's certainly not the only tool to guide consumers towards healthier eating habits, and it can't replace dietary recommendations. The Commission will be therefore reviewing the EU school scheme to make healthy products more available to children and improve their understanding of the benefits of healthy food. The evaluation of the current framework will be launched soon, and the impact assessment is scheduled for next year. The Commission is also providing financial and administrative support to the Member States to implement evaluated best practices for promoting healthy lifestyles. And this support is provided as part of the prevention pillar under Europe's Beating Cancer Action Plan. In order to help Member States combat increased obesity and to support the implementation of our farm to fork strategy in the cancer plan, we've launched in 2020 a joint action on implementation of best practices in the area of nutrition. This includes several initiatives, including on food reformulation, reducing aggressive marketing to children of foods high in fat, salt, and sugar, and public procurement in public institutions. Only 3% of health budgets is currently spent on health promotion and disease prevention. The scope for action, therefore, is immense. Finally, I'd just like to say, going back to the report which presented, that we very much welcome the recommendation there for a fully integrated policy strategy, reconnecting agriculture, food, nutrition, and health, and engaging all stakeholders at all levels. By 2023, this was one of the flagships of our farm to fork strategy, the Commission will propose a horizontal framework legislation promoting policy coherence at the EU and national level, and mainstreaming sustainability in all food-related policies and strengthening the resilience of the EU food system. I fully agree that looking at food systems in a holistic manner is the way to go. This is what we have to do. We have to bring together all the different actors to help shape our policies and initiatives to enable us to deliver on our transformative ambition. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to debating these issues. Thank you. Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much, because I believe that you precise the point, the crucial point for the next future, the role of education again, because we need to inform our consumer. We need to inform to make the right choice. And this is one of the main challenges that the European Commission has to face, exactly as you say, Claire, because the front pack labeling will be, I hope, an harmonized system to inform consumer, not to conditionate the consumer in one or another direction, but to inform, to give all the information to make the right choice. But of course, you stress the importance of having an integrated approach. An integrated approach of policy means that we need farmers. We need farmers, we need the common agricultural policy that we are trying to reform in the right way, of course, to make an important step ahead on the sustainable agriculture. But we need to help farmers to get this result. So now will be very interesting, the next speaker, which will be the first one, Eduardo Cuoco, which will be the IFOAM, the leadership of organic farming. Organic farming many times is underlined as one of the important answer to the big question, because organic, we already have a system in Europe, certification system, who give part of the answer to the big question. So it would be very a pleasure for me to give the floor to Eduardo Cuoco, which he is the IFOAM director, and I ask him the role of farmers in the affirmation of European sustainability and challenges of the Green Deal. Please, Eduardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you very much. And thank you to Barilla Foundation for having me in this panel. I found it very interesting so far. As Paolo said, I'm Eduardo Cuoco. I'm the director of IFOAM Organics Europe, an organization that for the last 20 years has been sitting here in Brussels representing the organic supply chain. So the farmers, the processors, the retailers, and also the related services that are provided to the supply chain in organic. And I would like to compliment the Barilla Foundation for the report. I found it very interesting and also very timely, because indeed this is a very crucial moment for Europe in which we are discussing how we can get towards more sustainable food system. And it is very timely and very important and very needed. Very needed because we see that farmers in a way are trapped into a kind of agro-industrial intensification system, which is generating a vicious circle where the intensification is giving as results a threat to productivity that requires further intensification and new industrial solution to be solved. I mean, we see that this vicious circle is putting all of us in front of important challenges. Indeed, the environmental challenges mentioned also by Marta, I mean, biodiversity loss, land degradation, climate change, but also the socioeconomic challenges. I mean, in the last 10 years, Europe has lost about 4 million farmers, and every year in Europe, we lose 325,000 full-time equivalent jobs in agriculture. So these two aspects of socioeconomic and environmental challenges have to be taken into account together with the health challenges that have been very well explained by the people who spoke before me. And as outlined in the report, indeed, we need to promote sustainable agriculture. Indeed, organic farming can be one of the approach that help to turn the agri-food system toward a more sustainable agri-food system. And we need to support the farmers who are willing to provide ecosystem services to the society and farm in a different way. I think it's important to underline that the farmers, together with the other actor of the agri-food chain, should be considered as part of the solution and not as a threat to the transition. We need to work with farmers. We need to help them in turning this vicious circle into a virtuous circle. We need to make sure that this virtuous circle will minimize input, will preserve the soil, but will also help to increase the soil fertility and the soil carbon sequestration, for example. So in IFOAM Organics Europe, we believe that we need a new agri-food system that is, let's say, delivering new output like restoration of nutrient cycles, higher water retention, natural pollination, low greenhouse gas emission, and indeed, high quality food production for all. We think organic can play a very important role in such a transition. With the help of organic farming, we can have an agri-food system which is able to deliver stronger and stable output while reducing the need of this industrialized solution. As Paolo clearly said, and I think it's important to underline, currently organic is the only sustainable production method that is clearly defined by a regulation and has its own share of the market, a growing market that is giving additional remuneration and opportunity to farmers, a growing market that, despite the two crises that we faced, the economical crisis of 2008 and the COVID crisis, has kept growing. I mean, we can see the data, and in the last 10 years, the organic market has grown for more than 150%. So let me say we are very happy that the Commission has recognized in the Green Deal and in the Farm to Fork strategy and the biodiversity strategy that organic farming can be one of the political tools to make this transition toward more sustainable food system a reality. When we see the objective of the Green Deal and especially the Farm to Fork, we see that the Farm to Fork says that by 2030, 25% of the European agricultural land will be organically managed. and then accompanies this objective with other two objectives about reducing the chemical pesticide, reducing the antibiotic, and reducing the chemical fertilizer. Well, I believe that organic farmers can indeed contribute to reach the 25% organic land, but also to the other two objectives. For each new farmer that will be start farming organically their land, there will be one less farmer using chemical pesticide, antibiotics, and chemical fertilizer. So I think really farmers can be the engine of this transition, and organic can be the petrol to feed this engine, to make this transition happening. But these objectives in the farm to fork are also very ambitious, and I don't think we can reach them easily just convincing farmers to farm organically. We will need really to stimulate conversion. We will need to attract them, to attract entrepreneurs into organic. We will need to equip them with tools that can ensure that they can have a good management of their business. First of all, I think what Ambassador Queroni said, I would agree with him. We need to make sure that there are alternatives to chemical pesticide. Plant protection products are very important, and if we want to have farmers that are getting more and more sustainable, more and more towards organic, we need to equip them with different tools. And I think it would be very important from the Commission to take seriously the need to place on the market natural substances that might substitute chemical fertilizer, keep helping the farmers in managing their farm properly. And in the same direction, we need stronger investment into research and innovation. I mean, we need to make sure that farmers are supported by the academia, by the scientists in facing the different challenges that they have on their farm. And then we need that the solutions that are found by the scientists with the farmers are really transferred to all the farmers. So we need strong, independent advisory services who can communicate to farmers about the latest innovation. We need a strong investment about building up agricultural knowledge innovation system to make sure that all the farmers have the right knowledge to convert to organic or to start making more sustainable practices. But to attract new farmers towards organic and towards sustainable practices, we also need incentives. And indeed, a big role can be played by the Common Agricultural Policy. Paolo mentioned the negotiation that is going on, and we see that there were some difficulties in completely align the CAP objective with the farm to fork objective. But we hope that now that the discussion is getting speed at the national level, the national strategic plan, the different member states will really do efforts in aligning the CAP objective with the farm to fork objective. We need indeed the CAP to support those farmers who are willing to start producing public goods for the society. But 25% organic land also bring another challenge. How do we keep our farmers healthy from an economical point of view? How do we ensure that they can sell their products? This is indeed a big challenge which has to be dealt from many different aspects. First of all, we believe that it's crucial to invest into organization of producers. So making sure that producers can get together and face the market as a united organization instead of singular farmers. But we also need to create a new market for those farmers. And I think here policy can play again a role, especially when we go into public procurement. We see that green public procurement can be a tool to enlarge the market of organic and sustainable products. And we believe that each member state should have a minimal target, national target, as quantity of organic food served into the public canteens, into the schools, and so on. And we think that green public procurement will not only help to create a new market, but can also help in educating the consumers. I mean, while eating organic since the primary school, for example, it will become a good habit in the future. So we look very much into GPP and indeed also to the school scheme that was mentioned by the colleague of the European Commission to make sure that the next consumer are well educated. But we also look at promotional policy, and we know that the Commission has ring-fenced a big budget for organic promotion in the next program 2021, and we are very happy for that because we believe that the promotion policy can also help more people to buy organic food. I see also a threat when it goes to demand. And it goes a little bit back to this issue of a front package and nutritional labeling. I mean, we have to be careful. We have to be careful that this kind of labeling are well discussed and criteria well formulated, because we need to preserve natural and traditional mild processed food from front package labeling that might distort the market and might confuse the citizen. But I think it's also important that we take into account the role of sustainability labeling, which are flourishing in these days. I mean, we see that there are more and more sustainability labeling coming from a private initiative or from semi-private initiative, which are actually an attempt to greenwash old practices and sell them as sustainable ones. So I really invite the Commission, when working on the sustainable food framework initiative that will start in a few months. I know that there is an expert group already working on that, to take this into account. We have to avoid greenwashing. We have to avoid confusing consumers. We have already a system in place, organic, that can already deliver what the consumer are asking on the market now. So let me say, farmers are the engine of this transition. We need to make sure that they have enough petrol to go on and to run this transition. But we need also that they are accompanied by a strong political willingness, internationally, but also nationally, regionally, and locally. So in conclusion, I would like to say that I see the Green Deal as a big opportunity for farmers. Many of them want to be part of the solution and are willing to adopt more sustainable practices. What we need to do is to break the agri-industrial intensification vicious circle and moving from input intensive to knowledge intensive agri-food system. If we do so and we incentivize the farmers and we work together with them, then the objective of the Green Deal will be successfully implemented. So I think it's all for now. Thank you very much again to Barilla Foundation, and Paolo, I give back the floor to you.
Thanks a lot, Eduardo. Thanks very much, because we understand that organic farming is one of the important solutions that we have, an important solution to the big challenges we have to face. Of course, we have a system established by the European regulation, and I think the organic system, the European organic system, is a successful story in the European legislation. Because remember, everybody, that organic system is working for a lot of time. It is increasing, and create opportunity in many member states. So this is great. And I think we have to increase, and we will do, absolutely, in the CAP reform. Thanks a lot to mention the front pack labeling, which we already say with Claire. This is one of the important challenges that the Commission have to try to harmonize. Sorry for that. But I very much agree with you when you say that we need to do more, including in the CAP reform, about the farm to fork strategy. Of course, we have to remember that farm to fork has to become a legislative proposal. We cannot just incorporate in the CAP reform without following all the procedure. So the impact analysis, the inter-service consultation, and then, of course, become a legislative proposal, and the Parliament and the Council will work to implement. But right now, I think the step ahead we are doing with the Portuguese presidency is quite positive. So I can say to all of you that we have a very good chance to reach an agreement until the end of this month in the next meeting with Council, Parliament, and Commission trilogues. So again, thank you, Eduardo. And now let's move to Ricardo Valentini. Ricardo Valentini is a Barilla Foundation advisor board, India advisor board, and he is the scientific coordinator of project of Eatable Life. So I will ask to Ricardo Valentini to introduce himself and to start to present the importance of communication to raise awareness among young generation, which is one of the key points. So please, Ricardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for this invitation. Thank you, Paolo. I hope I can show the video. Okay, I'll start my video. Okay, now you see me. Okay, I am a professor, I come from academics. I'm professor at the University of Tuscia in Italy and in Faculty of Agriculture. My main interest in science in the last few years was about understanding the role of food and agriculture on the climate in both ways, in terms of mitigation and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, as well as impacts from climate to the farming system in particular. And recently also working very much on the food systems. I thank Marta Antonelli and BCFN for this very, very useful report. And actually, I would like to focus indeed on important element, that is the need of multidisciplinarity approach to the food systems everywhere. Of course, in Europe, it's even more important thanks to the farm to fork strategy that for the first time brings together many actors, many issues, many technological challenges, many cultural approaches in the food systems. And this require really a true multidisciplinary approach. And so when we think how to really implement an ecological transition, a sustainable and a healthy transition of the food systems, we need to take account of so many different elements. And particularly, now we are facing, for example, as I said before, the importance of agriculture and the climate also policy. We know since the last IPCC report on land and climate that, and further other publications from JRC, that is 37% of the greenhouse gas emissions globally are coming from the agri-food system, from the farm to fork, including waste, including also tropical deforestation as a measure to increase land availability for agricultural production. So we have really, it's the second element. I mean, if we look at the ranking of the possible sectors for fossil fuel emissions impacts on climate, this is the second element, almost equal to transport, okay, in terms of global policy. So it's really a huge amount that was basically not considered in the last few years of climate policy discussion. So this is important. It's a new element again that enter into the let's say discussion of the future of agricultural systems. I want to focus on this multidisciplinary concept because I was very impressed by the element of the report where the median age of a farmer in Europe is 53 years old. And so if we consider the fact that, okay, we have to fight climate change, we have to understand the biogeochemical cycles, the role of carbon sequestration, the role of greenhouse gas emissions in farming systems. We have to include nutritional aspects because we already heard a lot from my previous speakers about the importance of nutrition. So what we can ask to a poor farmer today, to become a real a Nobel Prize scientist to let's say have information on everything. So, but this is really in reality the challenge. So we need young people. So the question is, there are too few young people involved in the agricultural sector, and these numbers for Europe, 53 years old, as well as the 5% of farmers. It's really telling us that if we want to make a real transition, if we want to really do this also in a short time, we need new energies. We need the young farmers and young people in the food sector that bring in new ideas, new energies, new way to approach systems. Probably it is also true that our generation maybe is not able to solve the problems that we have created ourselves, okay? And we now deliver to the next generation, where they, of course, are taking what we have done, and so they have that responsibility to solve the problem. So I think this is very important to highlight the need of boosting in Europe, but everywhere I would say, but in particular Europe, the influence of young people into the agri-food system, how we can give them more opportunities, not only generic opportunities, but really the power to change things. So responsibilities to change things, to lead, for example, farms, to lead agencies. So we need this type of concrete approach. I'm a professor, so I know what my students more or less, think. And I've seen a lot of changes in the last few years. First of all, we are now with the climate native generation. Okay, this is a word saying that the people that's being grown under the climate change, and so the sustainability concept in some way. Because this climate question is going on for more than 30 years of time, but now we have young people that are really inside the climate change society. They are the polar bears, okay, on the Arctic sheets that are floating. So these are reality things that are happening every day with our observations about climate impacts. So they know. And so this is an important opportunity for them for exploring also other disciplines that are not just the classic ones. So the farming, for example, the education and agriculture, for them is also important. I have many students, for example, coming just because they want to find solutions for the world, and they want to have sustainability life approach. Okay, so this is a good opportunity. We have already some fertile, let's say, at least in terms of mood, feeling of young people. Some of not all, of course, but some of the young people are really interested in the agricultural sector. But how we can really help this transition, this implementation? And first of all, it's very important that we introduce innovation technologies. For example, digitalization is very important, because we cannot ask the young people to suffer as our old farmers, they're suffering for a century or even more of their activities. We need to give them the possibility to work on the field with the comfort conditions, or even using their laptop and managing their farm through digital systems. And this is an important. I know that the EU, in Europe now, there's a big boost on that, but let's continue to believe in that and push on technologies, because this is the only way in which young farmers can really respond to this need of being involved in agricultural sector. Digitalization, but as well as rural areas. Okay, we have many rural areas in Europe that are difficult for people to live. I mean, I can speak of mostly for Italy, but there are examples in Spain, Portugal, and everywhere, in France, and even in Germany. So there are areas where there are no infrastructure for a young family to live. So we need to combine let's say, the support, the PAC, and all the instruments we have for food and agrosystems, and also farm to fork, with the social environment where the new farmers are going to live. So we need to create good schools in rural areas. We need to create good hospitals in these areas. Otherwise, it's difficult to convince a young family to establish and dedicate a life to farming, or dedicate to food transformation, whatever activities in the food systems, without the possibility to live in comfort way. Otherwise, as this is the trend, most of the young people are going to live in big urban areas, and this is exactly the contrary. We have to revert this, providing the best. Why don't have the best school in the remote areas? So why would have could have a very efficient broadband internet connection that make the life easy for young people in these areas. And sometimes also coming back to rural areas means coming back to social relations, to better life in terms of quality and healthy conditions. So the other thing that is also important, I think, is the financial support for creating new farmers, startups, innovation activities that are still the banking system today is very traditional. They still measure the interest rate on the basis of your performances, but they don't include in the risk, for example, if you have a green job, a green activity, or let's say a fossil activity that has for sure more risk also of business. So it's important to start to create green rates. I mean, in the bank, some of these things are already occurring, or there are some ideas, and for example, the BlackRock funds are already starting a process or reevaluating their portfolio of investments. But we need to go at the level of the single young people, for example, how we support with financial instruments his activity. We have to create some preferential or decrease the interest rates on loans when there is an activity that is connected with the health, with nutrition, with sustainability, and so on. That's important. Also, insurance systems as well should take into account, of course, these things. And finally, yes, we need also to create a better market, because there is a lot of discussion today, and requests has been also presented by previous speaker, by Eduardo, about the organic products, but sometimes it's difficult to find where to buy. That's the question. So where I can really buy, in which way I can really adopt a sustainable food strategy in my life. That's sometimes very complicated. So the market should be more open, more connected, to put into contact farmers and consumers in general, food providers in a better way. And finally, education, communication is very, very important. We have a lot of information today, but doesn't mean that is an education. Information is not education. Education means that you understand exactly what you are doing, and there is a lot of confusion. Sometimes there are a lot of practitioners or gurus, or food gurus, and you find in the blogs and in the internet many information that maybe is not grounded on scientific results. And this is why, for example, in the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition, we have now engaged in a concrete experiments to provide sustainable food in canteens of both universities and companies, sustainable and healthy food. And so try to modify the habits and try to make a transition in the consumers' food consumption, but based on real information. So we have developed an important database, for example, on carbon water footprints of foods that are counting more than 3,000 items, and is published by Nature Scientific Data Journal now. And this is important to provide the correct information, the really scientific grounded information to a market that is growing, to an interest that is growing. But we have to prevent, I think Europe also should prevent that this information make confusion. So it's important to go back to science, evaluate the data, evaluate the information, and inform the people. Education is important because also we need to create young people that are going to be farmers with a strong educational background. In the past, most of the farmers, young farmers, were kind of second order job, okay, you don't succeed in being graduated in economics and you go to work in the field. You have to change this, and it's important that our new farmers are really educated. They a degree, they are even PhD. Why not having PhD and go to be a farmer, or to be, of course, an actor of the food system. So that's investment in universities. I think it's very important. I don't say this because I have a conflict of interest, of course, but because we do need, and we see also the relevance of when we have young students graduated and they are going to lead some, for example, consortia or some big farm. So we see the difference in the way the farm is really behaving. So it's an important societal effort we have to take, and the Commission could help also in this direction, I think, in believing in supporting the educational systems for agriculture. That's a very, very important for me to say. at this point. And finally, yes, consumers need to know exactly what they're doing, and that's the communication is very important. For example, our project now that is funded by the LIFE program, so it's a European fund, that it's really touching ground with the need, for example, to give concrete examples, like we are now publishing a lot of recipes. That is a communication way, a lot of recipes for people to use at home, not only when they eat in the company canteens, but to reproduce at home what could be a sustainable food. And particularly, we have engaged also chefs with us to design these new recipes, because eating sustainable and healthy doesn't mean to have a very basic food or something that is kind of unhappy way not to eat, because eating is happiness. It's important for our social life. So these recipes, for example, are designed to be nice, attractive, tasting. So this is a very nice experiment, because when you promote this type of sustainable, healthy food in a proper way, in a good communication way, that is good, that is nice, that is tasting, so it attracts a lot of people. And so we see now that there are quite a lot of people moving into this direction, thanks to the way in which we communicate and celebrate the good food. So there are so many elements in this challenge of transition of the food systems, but we do need to stay in multidisciplinary framework and take the best of our solutions, the best of our ideas, and the young people need to be supported to help us in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you very much. As you say, the young generation could represent the engine to push the policymaker in the right way. So we need the young generation pushing, enthusiasm to push policymaker in the right way. But of course, you mentioned innovation. Innovation is crucial. It's crucial in this stage, because we need to give the correct answer. We cannot just say the goal. The goal is okay, of course, because it represents where we want to go. But the problem is how to reach there. Farm to Fork said 50% reduction of pesticide. Okay, that will be acceptable, of course. Everybody wants to reduce the chemistry in agriculture. Everybody wants to produce without any impact in the environment and in the health. But the question is how to combat the disease without the chemistry. Innovation is the answer. For example, that there will be a lot of interesting answer by the new genetic technology, which is not GMO, but produce new variety, genetic resistant to this disease. But you, Ricardo, mentioned another very important task, scientific information. We don't need ideological information, but scientific information. And young people need a good scientific information. And I very much hope that in the COVID time, the scientific approach will increase people understand how important is the science. The science can give the answer to the problem of today, not ideological. So thank you, Ricardo. Thank you very much for your intervention. And now move to the farmers. Let's say it like this. Luc Vernet, the co-founder of Farm Europe. So Luc has a great experience inside of the parliament, and he has experience about the needs of farmers. And as we said before with Eduardo, we need farmers to reach these goals, because one of the results of this important time is to produce, not to close the farmers, but to produce more with less pollution, with less impacting. So the farmer's role is crucial. Luc, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Paolo, and I take this opportunity to thank you as well for your leadership in the parliament on all the agri-food policy. And we all know that you contribute a lot to make the parliament position progressive and inclusive. So thanks a lot for this and for your patience for these topics. Thank you as well to the Barilla Foundation and for the report. I think it shows very clearly the dynamics ongoing in the food systems, and the fact that it's really a sector that is moving on, and also the room of improvement we have in this food transition. I want to start jumping on what Marta said, focusing on consumers' choice, and because I really think that it's the spirit behind the new approach of the farm to fork at EU level. It's clear that today we can not have top-down authoritative decisions, and on the contrary, we need to create dynamics in Europe at all levels to make sure that we achieve the objective of the farm to fork strategy, and we achieve them in practice. And in this journey, I think there is one transition which is very important, is the reconnection between farmers and consumers, but also between consumers and farmers. And I think this dialogue should be strengthened, and we should use all the tools we can to really create this dynamic dialogue and increasing the level of understanding. Because I think at this stage, after decades of food price going down, there is a broad consensus on the fact that we need to give the right value to our food, and there is awareness on the fact that price pressure in the food sector is pressure on resources. But indeed, we need to do that embarking 100% of our consumers, including those that cannot afford paying their food with a higher price. So that's a challenge. And as you said, Paolo, if we want to make sure that the farm to fork is an opportunity, we need to make sure that we embark all our society and all our farmers. And food systems are complex. We cannot focus on easy solutions. We need to take into account the reality, and I want to share with you 3 ideas which I think are important in order to achieve this strategy and to make sure that the political objectives that has been set are transformed into political choice that will fly at the end of the day. Because in a way, the difficult part of the farm to fork strategy only starts and will be achieved only with the decisions that will come in the next 1, 2, 3 years. And we will see that in the ground in the medium term, because impact on food systems are always medium terms impact. So I think what is important is to be consumer centric, to take the reality of the ground on the farmers, on how they produce and the reality of the food system, and to avoid fragmentation of the food system. And I will go through these 3 ideas with you now. Consumer-centric, I want to take you a concrete example to show you what I want to say. And we focused a lot earlier on the organic sector, and I think that's a very good example. And we need to reflect on that, because clearly it's a success story of the agricultural over the last years, and there are few, there are not many success stories. So we want to keep this story as a success, and we want to make sure that it continues and grow. But what we should avoid, I think, on this is to set administrative targets that put the success story as threat. I don't know now if the right growth of the market for organic is 20, 25, 15 or 30. I don't know. But what I feel is that we should make sure that this growth in the market is sustainable and reflect an expectations of the consumer. Otherwise, the risk is to undermine the value of organic and to cut the positive dynamic which is driving the sector, which is based on an added value for farmers. And we should make sure that the decision to expand and to grow this sector do not cut the premium for farmers. Otherwise, it won't work, and this would be the end of the organic success story. And I think in the decisions that we'll make in the coming months and year, we have to be very careful in this and take a big consumer-centric in a way that we take the reality of the choices and not a theoretical consumer, and because we know that theory is a country that does not exist. So we need to focus on reality, on real choices, and not on what we would like. So that's my first point, which is important. So the second one is that in this transition, we need to embark as much farmers as we can, and we need to make sure that at the end of the day, we make the sector attractive for a new generation, and we do not end up in achieving exactly the opposite of what we would like, meaning having always larger farms, always more concentration. And to do that, we need to be very careful in the way we will implement the objective we decide. And we saw in the recent weeks, and we also as Farm Europe are working on assessing the different potential impact of the choice that will be made. And clearly we see that there are two paths. There is one which is putting constraints and reducing the capacity of investment of our farmers and increasing the price of our food. But at the end of the day, if we are not cautious, this could lead to producing in Europe food only for a few and increasing imports for low-cost products and reducing the capacity of investments on our farmers. So we really need to make sure that this will not happen, and it will not happen if we make sure that we keep the capacity of our farmers to invest. And if we turn the farm to fork, and if we keep it in a positive and positive dynamic and in this right economic dimension, and I think the keyword innovation mentioned by Paolo and the previous speaker is really important. We need to make sure that this transition is also an economic transition, and at the end of the day, we need to have a balance between consumer expectations, natural resources, and farmers' income, and the three of them should be part of the transition. And I think today we have very important discussions ongoing in the Parliament, in the Council, on the implementation of the CAP. And I really believe that, for example, the Eco Scheme can be this tool helping, so this new feature of the CAP can be this tool to really foster sustainability, economic and environmental sustainability of our food system, and making sure that we do this transition via investment and not via degrowth. So that's the second message. The third one is fragmentation, because we see that tensions in the food chains are really high. And indeed, when you look for value, you try to segment your market. That's natural. And many actors in the food system today are seeking for value, and that's natural. That's their role. But there is a different role for policymakers and economic actors. And I think that policymakers should avoid encouraging this path of fragmentation of the food chain. And I heard about the Nutri-Score earlier in the discussion, and I think this will be a decisive discussion. We should avoid that this tool, labeling, is used to fragment further the market, rather than offering the consumer the right tool to make decisions, which is the role of decision makers. So we should make sure that policymakers do not define bad or good products, but give the tools for right choice of the consumer. And I think that should feed our discussions in the coming weeks in order to make sure that at the end of the day we have one food for all Europeans, and the diversity, wide diversity of offer, but not feeding via political decisions a battleground. That should not be the end up of the discussion. Otherwise, it would turn into a negative dynamic, which is not the objective of the Farm to Fork, indeed. So to conclude, I think it's important to underline that a topic that's 10 or 20 years ago was a bit old-fashioned is back as a top priority at EU level. The CAP, the Farm to Fork are really topics for the future. Important decisions are made. What we need to make sure is that, and I'm sure that many will have this in mind. A few years ago, the idea was to have, for example, single payment, single CMO, single, etc., etc. To have a simplification was the motto of everything. And I think when it comes to food system, we know that it's complex, and we need to make sure that the decision reflects the reality of the market and of the production. And there are as many reality as different crops and different products we have, and we need to grasp this reality at EU level with our tools to make sure that we achieve the transition we want. So I think the debate and the decision only start, and we will have very important discussions in the coming weeks and months. And thank you, all of you, for your involvement in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. Thank you very much. You say reflect the reality. They should reflect the reality. That would be an important message, because the policymaker has to take their action, take into the account what really the farmers can do. Because I don't think we want to have a farm to fork strategy to conclude with more and more import in Europe, food products by other countries, because our production decrease under the pressure of the new decision. I very much think this is the key of the problem, because everybody wants to reach the goal. Everybody wants to reach the environmentally ambitions, but at the same time, we need to make this progress with farmers, with the food system, in order to be able to create the right economic and social reaction to these goals. Otherwise, of course, the risk is just to transfer in other countries the problem that we want to solve in Europe. So thank you very much. And of course, you mentioned many times the need to invest, the need to help farmers to invest, to make innovation a reality in our farmers community. And this is what we have to do. And this is what we try to do with the new CAP reform, which will focus in the innovation at the same time to the new constraint in the green approach. So thank you very much, Luke. So now we are in the final part of our meeting, and we are in the chat to choose the question that we collect to our panelists. And I will try to start with the first question to Claire Bury. I have a question to you, a couple of questions to you in reality, which is what are the key actions that should be put forward in agriculture in order to provide nutritious food to all in European Union citizens? And the second one that probably you are reading, Clary, when trying to make an healthy choice, what about the part of the population to whom price is the main factor? That would be interesting question. I very much would be interesting to listen your answer. Is more food waste on consumer or the production level? What about sustainability of diet institution, school, for example? It is concerning that school meal often include fast food. I will remember that important step made by Commission when we introduced milk and fruit at the school, which was the educational program, which should made all the member states, and it was the first step in the right direction. So I will start with you, Claire, to try to make some answer at this question, and then I move to the others. Please, Claire. Claire, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Paolo. Thank you. And thank you to all the other speakers as well who had some very interesting points to make. And I think if I may, you give me a little bit of time, I'll come back on some of those as well, Paolo. So first of all, now in relation to these questions that have been asked, I take them in reverse order. So of course, I mentioned that we are working on revising the EU school promotion program, and we're assessing that, and we'll see how far it's gone. I think, as you said earlier on, Paolo, as well, I mean, we need to do more in these areas. I mean, it's a little bit sensitive for the EU to be present in these areas, but I think we have to do more in terms of trying to make sure that the right information is out there for young and for older people as well. I think the school meals one, I mean, there are some member states where that has been a very live debate. I mean, I think obviously it's for the member states primarily to guarantee a healthy school meal, but I think that is something that we would be encouraging them and pushing them to do. I mean, time and resources spent on that are not wasted. In fact, on the contrary. That I think is the right place to go. It may also include just outside the school boundaries in terms of what happens and access to fast food and so on. I know from my own daughter, who's at this age of 15 and wanting to go out there and get her own food, that sometimes there are traps that they fall into beyond what happens in terms of what's happening in the schoolyard as well. On this question of a healthy choice for cost-sensitive consumers, I think this is a very live issue, no? Because we know that in general, and Luke referred to that as well, of course, it's a beneficial situation for farmers when they go into organics, and it's a success story, but it does, on average, cost a little bit more. But I mean, it's part of our philosophy behind the strategy that it has to be access for all to good food. So we're very conscious of that in terms of the actions that we do, the measures that we promote. I mean, we need to be inclusive about this. I mean, he was talking as well, and you were talking, Paolo, about farmers and their capacity to invest. Of course, you know, the support that comes from the Common Agricultural Policy is crucial in terms of keeping farmers in the position that they need to be. But one of the other things, I mean, Luke talked about the balance that we need to strike between protecting the environment, having the right nutrition, and at the same time, making sure that farmers get a fair wage. I mean, this is exactly what we had behind the Farm to Fork. This is exactly what we're trying to do. I mean, we've seen, I mean, you will know as well as I do, Paul, about the unfair trading practices, what we saw in the milk sector, etc. I mean, we have to be, I think, very, very, very careful, and farmers getting a fair wage needs to be included in that. I think it's the second time that I've heard in 2 days this question about young people in the farming sector, which makes me think that it's really something that we've got to think hard about. I think Professor Valentini mentioned it was one of the things that struck him in terms of the Barilla report, and it certainly struck me about the average age now of farmers and the decreasing number of young people that want to go into farming. So this, I think, is really something that we need to think about. How can we give a good prospect? I mean, maybe they will be better qualified, but then they're going to expect to earn more if they have done PhDs and so on from farming. No? But I think we have to address this question of we need young people to go into farming, and we need them to be part of our decision making. I mean, discussing it here yesterday, we were thinking about, I mean, we're operating now some citizens dialogues ahead of this UN Food Summit in September, where we're hoping to put the EU, of course, on the stage. One of the things that we're doing is going to be showcasing what we do on the code of conduct. And there, I think we need to make sure that we do have young people, we have young farmers in those discussions so that they're inputting what their concerns are. I know, I mean, it's been a revelation to me arriving in this job in the last over the last 9 months and just seeing how complicated the legislation is that we have in this sector in terms of food standards and food safety and food security. Of course, we have one of the best standards in the world in Europe, but it comes at a price. So we, I think, have to be constantly active in terms of simplifying that and making it accessible and making it usable, taking account of what's happening on the ground, as Luke was saying. If I can just pick up on a couple of other points that were mentioned on pesticides. I think you said it, Paolo, and I think Michele said it as well, and Eduardo said it about working on alternatives to pesticides. This is one of the things in the Farm to Fork strategy. So what are we doing? First of all, we're looking at how we can do the easier marketing of the plant protection products which contain biologically active substances. This is something that we should be able to put forward by the end of this year. I mean, we really have to make that simpler. We know how complicated it is for authorization of pesticides, but where they're going to be biological active substances, the kind of substances we want to promote, we have to make it easier. Secondly, the Portuguese presidency has been launching what I think is a very constructive debate around biological control agents and what can be done there. So there was a conference in Lisbon last week. The Commission is probably going to be asked to do a study on that, which we will gratefully do and take on. And last but by no means least, the Sustainable Use of Pesticides Directive, where we should have a proposal for the beginning of next year in terms of how we can really ramp up that. And Paolo, I think that's going to be a very difficult debate with the member states. There are a couple of member states who want to be ambitious, but there are quite a lot who don't. So we're really going to be relying on the Parliament there to try and help us to improve the current system so that we reduce the pesticides that are being used. I think if I may, I stop there. I'm happy to come back on other points again.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you very much. And particularly when you say that we should make this important step ahead with farmers, not against farmers. And this is the challenges. Of course, as a parliament, we are much more ambitious than what the council is. This is normal. This is normal life. But if we give the concrete alternative to the use of pesticide, I think farmers will follow. But we need to give concrete alternative. So I very much welcome the Commission report on transgenic and mutagenic the last days, because it gives a future opportunity to combat the disease with genetic approach and not with chemistry. But of course, we need to give alternative, concrete alternative, of course. So thanks very much, Claire. And now I move again to the chat because I saw a couple of questions to Eduardo. Eduardo, I don't know if you read. The question is, would it be beneficial to help make organic produce more accessible? Some consumers cannot afford the current prices. And the second question is, you say that the farmers are part of the solution, not the problem. How can farmers be more visible, especially with consumers? And the last for you, Eduardo, is to what extent is organic farming an opportunity to attract more young in farming in the European Union? Eduardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you for this set of questions, and I hope you can hear me. And yes, I'll try to answer all the three of them. Let's start with the price issue. I mean, I like to say that it's not organic that is too expensive, but it's conventional food that is too cheap. And we know that there is a big problem in terms of price and price marginality for farmers, especially the non-organic farmers. People is normally able to pay a little bit more for organic because they recognize that organic is doing more compared to other agricultural systems. And I think here we need really a good reflection on how we can transfer this concept of externality into the price of food. We made a study a couple of years ago, We learned that 1 hectare of potatoes, with a industrial farming setting, it's polluting the groundwater, and it costs to society about 1,300 euros to clean up the water from this pollution. While an hectare of potatoes in organic costs to the society about 30 cents for the same issue, for the same kind of contamination, because basically there is no contamination. Now, how can we make this difference clear in the price of organic? And I think that the concept of true cost accounting, of true cost of food, is something that has been discussed among stakeholders and together with policymakers to see whether we can use this tool to make the price different, but also how we can use this tool maybe to work on taxation. If you see the European Organic Action Plan that was released by the European Commission last March, there is a specific action from the Commission. They will make a study to see whether there might be a different taxation on organic products, taking into account that they do not deliver, they do deliver public goods to the society, and they do internalize the cost of externality. And one option, for example, could be having a reduced VAT for organic products. This might attract new consumers and also rewards the farmers with a better accessibility to the market. Then going to the second question, how do we make farmers more visible? I think farmers need to be visible in different ways. I mentioned one in my speech talking about producer organization. I mean, being a single farmer facing the huge challenge of the market is difficult, but being a group of farmers and together facing these challenges, it's easier. So we hope that together with the Common Agricultural Policy and different national initiatives, there can be a strong support to build capacity into the farming sector to be together and be more visible on the market and more strong in the negotiation with the rest of the supply chain. But we also can have more visibility of the farmers while working with them in constructing shorter supply chain. So this is possible. This is working very well, and we see that more and more farmers are deciding and are choosing this way to sell their products. And then I would like to link up with the next question about youth. I mean, how we make farmer more visible, and how we make this organic farming more attractive for younger generation. First of all, I think we need to work on innovation, and I've been very clear on that. And Paolo, you know that this is a topic I'm dealing for the last 15 years now, the importance of innovation in organic farming. I mean, let me say, organic farmers are front runner of innovation. We have been obliged since 30 years now by the regulation to find a new innovation to deal with the problem that the other farmers are facing and solving with chemistry. So we are front runner of innovation, but we need more innovation, and innovation will attract more people. I have some data from Italy, and we can see that if we compare conventional farming with organic farming, 22% of organic farms in Italy are managed by young people, while only 9% is managed by old people. And we can also see, looking at the same data, that we have a very high education that is coming into organic farming from young people. Said so, I think young people and farmer visibility could also be the core of a concept that is going very well in Italy, but is going very well now in all the rest of Europe, which is the concept of organic district, or biodistretti, or biodistrict. These are also mentioned in the Organic Action Plan published by the Commission, and we hope that will be a core theme of the upcoming vision on the rural areas. We see that the biodistrict can represent a new business model, and it goes hand in hand with what Valentini said, a new business model in rural areas where we revitalize rural areas, attract young people to work in farming, because we give them a new context, and a new, let's say, a new model to live in. So not only the rural areas which producing food for the city, but the rural areas which per se as mechanism and as a flow of economies that allow people to live in, build communities, and build all the services that are needed to make this community flourishing. And I would stop for now, Paolo, but I would be happy to be back again if there are more questions.
Thanks. Thanks, Eduardo. Thank you very much to underline again how important it is to join into the organic young people. Young are the wheel in the future, because of course it means technology, means innovation. And you mentioned how important is innovation in organic farming. Thank you very much to do that. And I remember what Ambassador Quaroni at the beginning of today said about Italy is a front runner about organic, because we have close to 70% of our land in organic. And that is very close to the big success of the European objective to reach 25% of the European land to organic in 2030. So this is the direction, of course, and I think that we should make step ahead in this direction. So now move to Ricardo Valentini. Ricardo, we have a couple of questions to you. What is the real potential to mitigate climate change and achieve the European Union targets through the dairy shift? And again to you, Ricardo, what is the real potential to mitigate climate change and achieve the European Union target through dietary shifts? So, Ricardo, show us what is the successful, or about your point of view, targeting this potential. Ricardo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I wait the video to start, but anyway, if not, it's okay. Start my video. Okay. Yeah, I think these are very, very fundamental questions indeed, because this is a very new topic indeed. So we never thought in the last 20 years that we could change the atmospheric shape, you know, by food, by our diet. That's a very challenging question to scientists. But indeed, what we know that the potential is very high. We have this, for example, this project going on in concrete in the canteens, with the real people eating, and we are counting the dishes that are eaten by people and measure their footprints day by day, since now more than 1 year. And what we see is that with a good it's a very social question. With a good communication and the willing to do, it's important. We could, for example, reduce by something in the order of 30% of emissions, okay, according to in respect to a baseline, okay, in respect of our European baseline, that is something like 4 kilogram per meal of CO2, we can go down to something close to 1.5. That is more or less a little bit also in line with the Lancet report. So there are possibilities to do it, but the implementation is critical. We need to scale up. We need to make more experiments to involve with communication, with education, more people. The potential, I can say, are there. It's something like in the order of 30%. But there is one element that is a little bit of more preoccupation, because we also import food in Europe. And of course, we export food. So if we want to link what we can do by emission reductions by food in Europe and be accountable for the climate policy, that means under the inventory of greenhouse gas emissions of Europe, we need to include also what we export and import. And it's not easy, okay? And there's some implication. It will be some implication on the future. I can say that because what we export, we account in our system, in the production, like greenhouse gas emissions. What we eat internally, okay, is our own. But what we import, it's outside of our boundaries. And so I think we can achieve even more if we decrease the import of food, or we can put some standards, some regulatory systems on the import to meet our policy target. So we cannot decouple our policy target by an action versus the other countries, okay? So in the United Nations system, let's say, to regulate the market of food commodities according to sustainable principles. They're absolutely true. We need a global accord on this. We cannot just make calculation on our home. That will be misleading if we don't take the full approach. But yes, there are potentials. I would say maybe it's up to 30% of the food baseline could be decreased. That's a lot of implication in our particular carbon neutrality target, because don't forget we have carbon neutrality. It means zero emissions imbalance by 2050 by the European Commission. That's very ambitious, and we need all to get into that point, even food.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Thank you. This is, of course, not easy question. So, as you said, this is in the core of our reflection today. Let's move now to Luc Vernet. Luc, we have a couple of questions to you too. And the question is, what role do individuals versus institutions have in addressing food waste? That's interesting, the approach on that. And how can we connect farmers more effectively across the entire agri-food chain? I believe this is a second question that would be particularly interesting, because we talk a lot about the filiera, which is the whole chain, how we can connect better. We work a lot on the UTP's directive to increase the goodness between all the actors of the chain, but remain one of the key problems, how we can connect in more effectively across the entire agri-food chain. Luc, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And the element that Professor Valentini just mentioned on the international dimension of the Green Deal is very, very important, and not the least important. On your question, first, I think it's important to note from the studies, and I read that for consumers, citizens, when you ask them what they do for the environment, most of the time the first reaction they have is to say that they try to waste less food. So that's the first concrete, tangible actions every single citizen can do, and we know that we still waste far too much food, and there is a direct link between wasting food and wasting natural resources, and that's it shows that's really food matters, and we need to avoid wasting food. There's no easy answers, and I think all of us in our daily life, we have a responsibility, and we should be aware of this responsibility as soon as we are in the shop making choices. And I think we need to the role of education in that it's really, really important, and reconnection between what I mentioned earlier, consumer and farmers. When you know how a cow is bred, when you know how food is grown in the fields, you know the efforts of the people behind these products, it's clear that you do not act and behave in the same way. You do not waste and the same way. So I really think that we really need to step up our efforts to make people understand, and we see we all more and more live in cities, so this connections is getting more narrow. So we need to really work on that, and I think the institutions there on raising awareness have a very, very important important role. On the second questions with regard to farmers organization, collective actions, it's a key one for the success. And indeed, we need to have changes in the way we see competition rules. And for decades, this has been a huge fight. And I think things are moving, in particular in the Commission. because in the past, and I was in the commission also at one point, so I know how fierce the battle were on competition policy. I think we need to stop working based on ideology. We need to achieve what we want to achieve, meaning allowing farmers to get organized and grasp better value for their work, and this should have consequences on competition rules. But I'm tempted to say that we should go beyond that, because now we have tools that we did not have a decade ago. I have in mind, for example, the blockchain. With the blockchains, with the new tools, we have this capacity to have a flow of information and a direct relation between farmers and consumers. And I think we should grasp the opportunity of these tools, engaging and starting a dialogue. And the farming community can use this and should use this also to promote their product, to promote their how the food is produced, and to use this also as a tool. So we have on one side competition rules, but we should also have innovation and new tools, as it's one of them, blockchain, but also local markets. That's a direct way to have a dialogue. So we should use all this, and public policy should help, I think, the farming community to seize these tools, because we know that farmers, it's a very fragmented sector, so we really need incentives and we really need tools to help people carrying projects together, and that's something which should be fostered.
Thank you, Luc. Thank you very much. You put the farmers community in the center of our discussion, which is one of the key, because as we said many times today, we need to reach this goal with farmers, not against farmers. And this is very, very important. Well, I wonder if there are any panelists that want to take the floor to say something about the discussion we have now. Otherwise, I will go to the conclusions, just saying something before leaving this very interesting webinar together, and to thanks again Barilla Foundation. Eduardo, you ask the floor, please, Eduardo.
Yes, Paolo, you gave me the opportunity. I will take it. I would like to continue what Luc said about new technology. I think indeed the new technology can be a game changer for the agricultural sector in Europe and all over the world. But I would like to stress, and I'm sure Luc's agree with me, that we have to be careful to really make sure that this new technology, Internet of Things, blockchain, all this digital technology are really based on the needs and value of farmers and consumers, and not on the technology or the needs of technology developers, let's say. I think this is very crucial. We have to make the technology to serve the farmers and not the farmers to serve the market of technological provider. And I would like to stress this because it's important. I would like to stress that it's very important that we find a way to help our farmers to understand how to use these technologies in an independent way. They do not have to depend from the provider to learn how to use those, Otherwise, we will run in the same vicious circle which we run for chemistry. So it's really, really important. We, as Organic, are really into this technology. We have been looking into digital technology since many years now. We believe that they can really help us because they can be site-specific, providing us with timely information and help us to take decisions that sometimes are difficult to take. But again, we should make sure that these technologies are developed for us and not to be sold to us. And then indeed also that this technology are assessed in order to keep their environmental impact to the minimum. Otherwise, we move the technology, but we don't change the impact. So that's what I wanted to remark. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So,
thank you. Thank you, Eduardo. I think all of us support your point. It's very important. We don't have to waste time, but the farm community is a very concrete people. They use technology that they need. And I think now the challenges that they have is to understand that the market needs now much more organization than in the past. In the past, the was easier because the consumption was closer to the farmers. Today, with the role of the distribution system, make very important the organization of farmer. The way how the product, the food put into the market, it's crucial. And this is another important task when we talk about how we can support the farmer organization, the farmer, the producer organization, and all the way that they can reach much more power in the market and not be squeezed by the power of other actors in the chain. But let me say just a few words to conclude these couple of hours together today, and starting again saying thank you very much, Barilla Foundation, to give us with a starting point with a study presented by Antonelli. I was very much impressed about the result of the Marta Antonelli presentation and all the discussion that we had in our panelists, because we focus on one of the main goals that we have today, how we can react to the needs of having healthy products, to have a much more attention to the natural resources, and at the same time to produce the food that we need. And COVID-19 show how important it is to produce the food that we need. And all the farming community continued to work while we were close in our house. So what we learn about the discussion of today, I will try to say a couple of things. First, the science. The science is crucial. The science should driven us to give a solution. We need more science and we need less ideological approach. And this is an important lesson of today. Science can help us. We have a solution. But of course, to mix the science with education, because we need to improve the knowledge about the people, our consumer and our farmers. Education is crucial. And probably we can do more about the educations. We can do more about how give at the consumer all the information that they need to make the right choice. And of course, education is crucial to reduce obesity and to reduce the wrong habits, etc. Third, we need a global approach. When we talk about such a food security issue, a very important issue, then we need a global approach, because the policy have to be combined together. This is one of the most important issues, and I think the United Nations will do it. And in particular, in September meeting in the food security in New York will be a great opportunity to underline such global approach. We need it. Global approach means that everybody have to do this, have to do part of the job, and everybody have to produce some step in the right direction. Another lesson today is the equilibrium between environmental, social, and economic aspects. Because of course we want to reach these goals, but we want to reach these goals together, our farmer community. And then it's very important, and they are crucial to reach the goal. And of course, in this regards, the concrete alternative to the chemistry, to the pesticide, and it's very, very important to underline. So I very much enjoy, and I think would be all the people who was listening us will enjoy to know more about that. They can get all the information in the Barilla Foundation site. And I would like to thanks again all the speakers and all the panelists. Thank you very much. And I hope to see in the present way, not only webinar, in some other parliament opportunity we can have together in Brussels. Thanks again to everybody. Thank you again, Barilla Foundation, and see you soon. Bye-bye by the Paolo De Castro. Thanks a lot.
Goodbye, everybody.